Welcome. Hope everybody's having a great day so far. It's the St. Paddy's Eve. I'm wearing the green. And on my annual celebration of the Irish roots. So we this New Brunswick is pretty Irish. St. John is called the Irish city, and they celebrate for 2 weeks. It's a little less here, but I have to celebrate my Irish roots. I have an annual tradition, I guess. I have my Guinness, and well, the O'Leary roots run deep, and they came over by the shipload, and some of them got out of Ireland, and the rest were left hanging from the family tree. But anyways, it is what it is. Irish is Irish, and thank God for the Irish. We need more of them. So, yes, chaos is coming. It's been a very disappointing and very disheartening week with what's going on with the Carneys. And by the way, the O'Learys are not related to the Carneys in any way or means. So I don't even know if Carney's an actual Irish name. I think he's probably just a fraud, just lying. So he's already been caught in a few lies, such as getting rid of the carbon tax was his latest lie. And he will continue because it's what he is. Liars do lie. Now, I've got some things in an order here, and I hope I don't mess it up, but I want to show you something here about Mr. Carney and some of the one of the things that he just pulled. And as you know, like I say, he signed that order in council, which was a lie. It was not. And he said he just zeroed out the carbon tax, which he can't do. So there's two lies. And I'm not sure if he actually called it an order in council. That's got to go through the Governor General, which wouldn't be an issue, I'm sure, because she was appointed by the Liberal Party, by Trudeau. But here's something here that maybe some of you might not be aware of, and I would say it's worth looking at. And this is an actual Government of Canada website, and it's the guidelines on conduct of ministers, ministers of state, exempt staff, and public servants during an election. Well, we're not into an election yet, but I want to look at the introduction. It's the introduction, it's the caretaker convention. And we're in the caretaker stage right now because we don't have a sitting government, we don't have an elected prime minister, so we're in the caretaker convention state. And here's what is going on with this right now. In Canada's form of democratic government, the legitimacy of the government flows from its ability to command the confidence of the House of Commons. Following the dissolution of Parliament for an election, however, there is no elected chamber to confer confidence on the government. Given this fact, and that the government cannot assume that it will command the confidence of the House after the election, it is incumbent upon a government to act with restraint during an election period. This is the Caretaker Convention. By observing the Caretaker Convention, governments at the end of their current mandate demonstrate respect for the democratic will of the people That's not happening, is it? The caretaker period begins when either the government loses a vote of non-confidence or Parliament has been dissolved, either as a result of the Prime Minister asking for dissolution or because of an election date set by legislation. Well, Trudeau asked for dissolution as prorogued. So we're in the caretaker period. It ends when a new government is sworn in or when an election result returning an incumbent government is clear. Goes on to say, exercising restraint does not mean that government is prohibited from making decisions or announcements or otherwise taking action during the caretaker period. To the contrary, the routine operation of government must continue and necessary business must be transacted. Well, this is the routine operation and necessary business. Right now, what Carney's doing is not necessary business and it's not routine operation of government. In the event of emergencies, such as natural disasters, the government must have a free hand to take appropriate action to ensure that the public interest, notably the safety and security of Canadians, is preserved. To the extent possible, however, government activity following the dissolution of Parliament in matters of policy, expenditure, and appointments should be restricted to matters that are routine. Okay, this has been nothing routine so far. Non-controversial. Everything Carney's done has been controversial. Urgent and in the public interest. Nothing was urgent or in the public interest. Reversible by a new government without undue cost or disruption, or agreed to by opposition parties in those cases where consultation is appropriate. Well, there's nothing been agreed to by the opposition parties. In determining what activity is necessary for continued good government, the government must inevitably exercise judgment, weighing the need for action and the restraint called for by convention. It's pretty much the same as during the writ period. Okay? So everything Carney has been pulling is not within the guidelines. He doesn't follow the guidelines. Wow. Surprise. Now, Carney, I'm getting tired of this guy already. Carney, this is from True North. He identified as European at the World Economic Forum. We all have caught wind of that, I'm pretty sure. Presumptive Liberal leadership, this was obviously before he was crowned king of the Liberal Party. Mark Carney may soon be Canada's next Prime Minister. He already is. Now, but he chose to highlight his European identity and citizenship. In 2023 World Economic Forum panel discussion talking on the transition to a green economy, Carney identified himself as a European before talking about how the European Union and United States could dependably transition to a net zero economy. As a European, I am a European, actually. Yeah, an Irish citizen. Speaking as a European, said Carney. That's when he was hanging out with his WEF pals there. He talked about how the United States and European Union are reshoring their trade with countries who are politically and economically aligned, throwing Canada in as an honorary mention at the end of his answer. It's a real issue in determining how we build resilience across friends, after all. Boy, what a load of crap. And I would say that certainly the EU and the United States are friends. It's not what he's saying now. As of the Canadians, I'll throw the Canadians in. I'm also Canadian, said Carney. While Carney is a native-born Canadian, the former central banker obtained Irish citizenship in his youth and became a British citizen in 2018 during his time as the governor of the Bank of England. Spent just 7 years in London in that role and was later appointed by then UK Prime Minister, good old Boris Johnson, as a finance advisor, working on COP26 conference that Britain hosted in November of 2021. True North reached out to him, but of course they wouldn't get a response. He's not going to deal with anybody but the mainstream, and not very much with the mainstream either. In the past decades, Canadian politicians seeking the premiership have received significant criticism for holding dual citizenship with another country. I don't know why they call it premiership. Prime Minister. But during the 2011 general election, Prime Minister Stephen Harper and the Conservatives attacked Liberal leader Michael Ignatieff for holding dual citizenship with the U.S., publishing attack ads depicting Ignatieff calling himself an American. The attacks against Ignatieff, an academic and author who had worked in the U.S., worked to great effect as the Conservatives managed to win a majority government and reduce the Liberals to only 34 seats and third place party in the House of Commons. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer also faced significant scrutiny from critics for holding dual citizenship with the U.S. During the 2019 election campaign, Scheer was forced to promise to renounce his American citizenship, though he ultimately decided against doing so after failing to become Prime Minister. So, it looks like Carney's not going to do anything of the sort. Carney's going to do what Carney wants to do. Now, remember, Carney, he's heading off to Europe, but he's going to UK to meet with Starmer, Herr Starmer, and Macron in France. And then the EU. Why is that trip so important that he's going to take off for Europe all of a sudden? Like, it's a bit of a question there. Like, why not hang around Canada instead of just jumping on the plane for Europe? Well, Trudeau was in Europe after he announced his future resignation on January 6th. On April the 3rd, Trudeau landed in Europe and had a meeting with the Coalition of the Willing for Ukraine. France and the UK, they floated the idea to send troops on the ground as a guarantee after a potential peace deal. However, so far, not many countries appear to be on board. France and UK floated the idea of developing a coalition of the willing to enforce any peace deal in Ukraine at a summit in London. Keir Starmer described the coalition as a group of countries ready to support Ukraine with troops on the ground and planes in the air working with others. However, the mandate of these troops, as well as how many would be required, isn't yet clear. Philip Pershok, director of ERSEM Europe, the Strategic Research Institute at the École Militaire, told Euronews that the concept opens up a list of questions. Does this mean sending troops to Western Ukraine to free Ukrainian soldiers from Western Ukraine to go to the front? Is that peacekeeping? They are two different things, he noted. In this case, peacekeeping means peacekeeping troops positioned at the front to prevent fighting. So it's a lot of different things, he told Euronews. Experts estimate that several thousand soldiers would be needed to provide a credible guarantee of peacekeeping. Let's say an Army Corps of 50,000 soldiers to send a clear message to Russia. We are very serious about this. Sven Biskop of the Brussels-based Egmont Institute told Euronews. Even with a clear definition of the concept, countries across Europe have expressed different opinions on whether they would need, or indeed rather be willing to put boots on the ground in Ukraine. There's some hesitant countries. Some European countries seem to agree to the Franco-British initiative, but are yet to speak up on the notion of deploying soldiers on the ground. Portugal, for example, has assured full support for the plan that will be defined by the UK and France. Folks, UK and France. Where's Carney running off to? The UK and France. But Lisbon considers it is still too early to consider sending troops to Ukraine as part of a peacekeeping operation. The sending of national forces must have the backing of the National Defense Superior Council, which will convene on the, when? The 17th of March. Tomorrow. When is Carney landing there? He leaves today, I believe it is, to be there for the 17th of this month. Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof stated that he has not made any concrete commitments on behalf of his country, but also gave assurances that the Netherlands would join French and British military planners in drafting possible solutions. Spain could also be on board, but at a later stage. The Spanish Foreign Minister, José Manuel Albares, gave assurances that the country has no problem with sending troops abroad, but at the moment in Ukraine, the effort is still primarily political and diplomatic. That seems backed by domestic public opinion of 81.7% of Spaniards are in favor of sending soldiers as a peacekeeping force to Ukraine. I don't know how about this peacekeeping there, how that's going to work. According to a poll conducted by the television channel La Sexta, Ireland's government spokesperson said there's been a willingness to discuss the topic and Dublin will consider it, while stating that it's not the right moment to do so. We're not at the point of talking about a negotiated peace yet, so it's premature to speculate in which context peacekeepers would actually be deployed, the spokesperson told Euro. Keep in mind, these countries are NATO countries. Article 5 could be enacted. Italy and Poland are skeptics. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, is among the most skeptical leaders. She says, I'm still perplexed about the use of European troops. I see this as a solution that risks proving very complicated and probably less decisive than others, she told journalists after the London meeting, underlining that deployment of Italian troops has never been on the table at this stage. In her view, the best opinion to offer security guarantees to Ukraine is to involve NATO's Article 5. And you know what Russia says about that. On collective defense in some way, which commits the alliance's members to protect each other in the event of an attack. They're beating the drums of war, is what they're doing. How to deploy this when Ukraine is not a member of NATO remains unclear. However, so Meloni's suggestion remains blue sky thinking at this stage. Despite being among the strongest supporters of Ukraine since the invasion, Poland remains very firmly opposed to sending any troops to Ukraine. Prime Minister Donald Tusk has said that the country has already taken a heavy burden by accepting almost 2 million refugees from Ukraine in the first weeks of the war. Warsaw will provide support in terms of logistics and political support, but no boots on the ground, it seems. Carney's going over there to get us into a mess. If we put troops on the ground, boots on the ground in Ukraine, how are you going to have an election when you're fighting a war with Russia? It'd be pretty hard, isn't it? That's called an emergency. Parliament would be called back as an emergency. You see what I'm getting at? See, this is from today. It says Mark Carney is set to depart for his first foreign trip today, visiting France and UK with an additional stop in Iqaluit. I hope he freezes. Carney will leave today and return Tuesday. Okay. Okay. So he's only there for the 17th of March. For that meeting is where he's going. The aim of the trip is to strengthen ties with France and UK. Yeah. And reaffirm Canada's Arctic sovereignty. That's a joke. Carney is expected to talk about security and economic and trade ties while in Europe. Security. It's kind of a strange term, but you know what I mean. Where he will meet with French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Carney will also meet with King Charles while in the UK. King Carney and King Charles. Carney has no plans. Maybe they're going to go. Maybe he's going to meet with them, talk about Epstein Island, about the release of the names. Maybe they're going to have a little conversation about that. Carney has no plan yet to visit the United States. See, though he said he looks forward to speaking with U.S. President Donald Trump at the appropriate moment. Right. That was from the Canadian Press. Not looking good, folks. Not looking good at all. We know he's a liar. We know he's a fraudster. We know he's a thief. So, that's what we got. Now, I looked at On Target. This is just one paragraph. On Sunday, March 2nd, Trudeau joined European leaders and Zelensky at a hastily convened meeting in the UK to try and find a way to keep Ukraine in the fight against Russia without the aid of the US. So there it is. That's what Trudeau was doing on the 2nd of March. He was over there trying to find a way to keep Ukraine in the fight against Russia without the US. Isn't that sweet? That weasel was trying to get us engaged in a war before he got out the door. Locked us out of Parliament, over there trying to get a war going. And Carney's going over there now to finish it, to get us in. This is the way I see it. From all these articles, it really seems like they really want to get us into Ukraine. Here's a 3-minute read only, so bear with me with this one. Carney's climate plan will continue to cost Canadians. This is from March the 12th, so it's just not that old, 4 days. Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, has floated a climate policy plan that he says will be better for Canadians than the divisive, read widely hated, consumer carbon tax. But in reality, Carney's plan is an exercise in misdirection. No, that's a lie. That's what it is, not misdirection. Under his plan, instead of paying the consumer carbon tax directly and receiving carbon rebates, Canadians will pay more via higher prices for products that flow from Canada's large industrial emitters, who Carney plans to saddle with higher carbon taxes, indirectly imposing the consumer carbon tax by passing those costs on to Canadians. Carney also wants to shift government subsidies to consumer products of so-called clean technologies. As Carney told the National Observer, we're introducing changes so that if you decide to insulate your home, install a heat pump, one of Carney's heat pumps, wink wink, he'll make more money off them, or switch to a fuel-efficient car, those companies will pay you, not the taxpayer, not the government, but those companies. What Carney does not mention is that much of the costs imposed on those companies will also be folded into the costs of the products consumers buy, but the cause of rising prices will be less distinguishable and attributable to government action. Moreover, Carney says he wants to make Canada a clean energy superpower and expand and modernize our energy infrastructure so that we are less dependent on foreign suppliers and the United States as a customer. But this too is absurd. Far from being in any way poised to become a clean energy superpower, Canada likely won't meet its own projected electricity demand by 2050 under existing environmental regulations. For example, to generate electricity needed through 2050 solely with solar power, Canada would need to build 840 solar power generation stations the size of Alberta's Travers Solar Project, which would take about 1,700 construction years to accomplish. If we went with wind power to meet future demand, Canada would need to build 574 wind power installations the size of Quebec's Seigneurie de Beaupré wind power station, which would take about 1,150 construction years to accomplish. And if we relied solely on hydropower, we'd need to build 134 hydropower facilities the size of the Site C power station in British Columbia, which would take 938 construction years to accomplish. Finally, if we relied solely on nuclear power, we'd need to construct 16 new nuclear plants the size of Ontario's Bruce Nuclear Generating Station, taking only 112 construction years to accomplish. Again, Mark Carney's climate plan is an exercise in misdirection. No, he's lying. A rhetorical sleight of hand to convince Canadians that he'll lighten the burden on taxpayers and shift away from the Trudeau government's overzealous climate policies of the past decade. But scratch the surface of the Carney plan and you'll see climate policies that will hit Canadian consumers harder, with likely higher prices for goods and services. As a federal election looms, Canadians should demand from all candidates, no matter their political stripe, a detailed plan to rekindle Canada's energy sector and truly lighten the load for Canadians and their families. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I will say that Pierre has a plan. He's been laying it out, and Carney's been trying to steal as much of it as he can. But the plan is to get those pipelines built. Drill, baby, drill. Get the pipelines built, get the oil sands going, get us back on track. Carney's not going to do any of that. You notice that down in Brazil, I think it was, they cleared a whole bunch of the rainforest down there for their next COP meeting coming up. And apparently they used like slave labor. I don't mean chains and whips, but you know what I mean, right? And they cleared the CO2, according to Grok AI, apparently was massive, more than, I don't know. I'd have to look at that and see. I'd have to look that up. And they're building a nice big runway for all their private jets to come in and land for the meeting in the middle of the rainforest. So they're destroying the rainforest so they can go down there and have a meeting about saving the planet. These people are disgusting. You know. But, gee, the media doesn't say anything about that, do they? Just, well, you know, it's don't talk about that. Because if we do, those pesky conservatives will get in and they'll, right? It's going to cost them a few bucks, especially CBC. Notice Carney said, oh, Radio Canada, yeah, I like Radio Canada and I will protect it or whatever. Pierre said the same thing. Carney's trying to make it sound like Pierre was trying to cancel Radio Canada, and he said no, right out. He said no. Radio Canada and in Quebec and CBC are entirely different animals. So the lies never end. The media is not, well, actually the media is having a hard time to get any answers out of him. He runs and hides just like Trudeau used to do.
Well, Trudeau, once in a while, he'd try to answer a question. He wouldn't try, but he'd fake it. And he'd just go off on a big tangent. So, you know, and then walk away, like leaving all the reporters standing there looking at each other going, what did he just do? Yeah. So, yeah, here we are. Now, if we go to war, nobody's prepared for that. Everything's been just kind of idling along. We're all distracted with all the crap they've been pulling. Meanwhile, Trudeau's over there in Europe promising for troops on the ground, and all the crap with Carney being set up and promoted and put in his place, and now he's dodging the media and spreading lies and heading back over to pick up where Trudeau left off to see if he can promise Canadian troops on the ground in Western Ukraine. If we get into that war, we don't have anything to protect ourselves, and we can't fight Russia. Come on. And do you think Putin's going to say, oh, well, I won't bother Canada because, they don't have any military? He's going to say, oh, that's going to be a cakewalk. We'll get in through there. China can come in with us. And, well, you know how cozy our government is with China, more so with Carney than with Trudeau. I was looking at my email, and I got a letter here. Or letter. It's a posting from the website, and I gotta find it here. And this is, I don't know if you guys, some of you might be getting the email from the Bureau, from Sam Cooper. This one here, Sam goes deep into Brookfield. Deep ties to Chinese land, loans, and green deals. And a real estate tycoon with CCP links raise questions as Carney takes over from Trudeau. This is from the 14th of March. It says, Brookfield bet billions on Shanghai land as China's market peaked and secured $260 million Bank of China refinancing under Mark Carney as the market crashed. Yeah. A review of the corporate documents reveals that Brookfield, the influential $900 billion Canadian investment fund, from which Liberal Prime Minister-to-be Mark Carney stepped away from in order to replace Justin Trudeau as Canada's leader, maintains over $3 billion in politically sensitive investments with Chinese stated linked real estate and energy companies, along with a substantial offshore banking presence. One of its major real estate ventures, a $750 million entry into a high-end Shanghai commercial property in 2013, involved a Hong Kong tycoon affiliated with the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, which the CIA labels as a Central United Front entity of Beijing. The investment occurred while China's real estate bubble was peaking. Last year, as China's market crashed, the vacancies soared in Shanghai. Brookfield, under Carney, secured hundreds of millions of dollars in loans from the Bank of China to refinance its Shanghai commercial land holdings. According to the Bureau's research, this emergency loan came a decade after Carney, serving as governor of the Bank of England, aided Beijing by facilitating the Bank of China's expansion of its global financial footprint. In his 2013 speech, UK at the Heart of the Renewed Globalization, that's a good title, Carney announced that the Bank of England has signed an agreement with the People's Bank of China, helping the internationalization of the renminbi is a global good. While Brookfield had already amassed well over $3 billion in estimated investments and managed assets in China before Carney took the helm in 2020,
Research indicates that he played a role in expanding the firm's footprint there. This included refinancing its 2019 acquisition of Shanghai Commercial Real Estate, initially valued at approximately $2 billion Canadian at the peak of China's real estate bubble, though its actual worth was likely significantly lower when Brookfield secured nearly $300 million at 4% interest from the Bank of China last year. This is like a spider's web, eh? It's got all these... This Brookfield management, they make it really hard to trace and track, right? They know what they're doing. Sneaky carny, as Pierre would say. Given that his history of deep investment in China, if not his holdings, reportedly now placed in a blind trust, could potentially color Carney's plans for Canada. These developments are especially notable as a trade war between the United States and Beijing escalates. It's funny they haven't responded to the tariffs from China on Canada, right? On Chinese goods especially. What is it, 100% on canola? Crickets. Not saying a word, eh? I wonder why. Maybe it's because Carney's tied up with China up to his neck. Carney and his cabinet members will be sworn in at 11 a.m. this morning. This is from the 14th. At Rideau Hall, the Governor General's official residence. The timing of Carney's appointment as Prime Minister adds urgency to ongoing questions about potential conflicts of interest, with matters further complicated by reports that his first international meeting will be with European leaders next week, who are themselves grappling with sweeping tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. Brookfield's substantial investments in China, directly or indirectly, involving state-linked entities, including hundreds of millions in renewable energy assets acquired through Terraform Global in 2017, another $750 million real estate stake in China Xintiandi since 2013, a 2019 Shanghai land purchase valued at approximately $2 billion, a $100 million joint venture with GLP for solar projects launched in 2018, and reported plans to raise hundreds of millions more in both real estate and China green sector investments. We're not talking chump change here, folks. We're talking billions and billions of dollars, and he's selling us out. His sole raison d'etre, I'll say, raison d'etre, to get in there and sell out this country. Trudeau went left crying because he didn't get to do it. Carney came in and took over. Trudeau actually cried in front of the Governor General, Mary Simon. She patted him on the back and consoled him and kicked him in the butt on the way out the door. Not really, she just consoled him. A loser. In 2013, the year Xi Jinping became president, Brookfield made its first major foray into China's real estate sector, investing up to $750 million for a 22% stake in China's Xintiandi, a subsidiary of Hong Kong-listed developer Xu on Land. The cornerstone investment in China Xintiandi gives Brookfield access to high-quality assets in Shanghai while creating opportunities for future growth through asset acquisitions and strategic partnerships. Bill Powell, Brookfield's Australasian chief executive, said in a press release, "China is a key market in Brookfield's long-term growth strategy, and partnering with Shui on Land to invest in China, Xintiandi is an ideal entry point for us." Although Shui on Land is not state-owned, that's the name of a company, Shui on Land. It operates within China's tightly regulated urban development sector. One of Brookfield's primary real estate partners in the region is Vincent Lo, Shui on Land's principal, who previously served as a member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, an advisory board that ostensibly includes diverse political parties and organizations, but ultimately operates under Chinese Communist Party leadership. Folks, what do you want to bet Carney goes to China before he goes to the U.S. to talk to President Trump? I'd throw a few bucks on that one. Its members, especially high-profile business leaders, often support policy objectives aligned with the central government's agenda. Lowe's decades of membership in the CPPCC highlights his proximity to Beijing and adds important context to any business dealings he undertakes, such as those with Brookfield. So, this is a long article. I'm not going to go anymore. There's just more money, more business dealings. It's all with China. China is Brookfield's major investment. Most of their investments are there. They got some in Brazil, India. So I think Australia too. Yeah. This is just horrible. The guy's a snake. Anybody, here's the Paradise Papers from 2017, a leak of offshore records, revealed numerous Brookfield-linked entities registered through the Appleby law firm. For example, Brookfield Infrastructure Partners Limited and Brookfield Property Partners Limited were incorporated in Bermuda, according to the Paradise Papers. Records show Brookfield had many Bermuda-based vehicles dating back to the mid-2000s. And he also had in Qatar and in Brazil, where else? A lot of different countries anyways. So, I got a question. Does anybody, when do you think the writ will be dropped for an election? So I want to see your thoughts on that. When do you think Carney will call an election? I know there's a few different options here, and they're probably all going to come up here. I know what I think is probably have a lot to do with it. But I want to know what you folks think. So, Phil, tomorrow, you hope. Okay. Dino says May. Sharp says September. Lawrence says October. Phil says within 1 week. Edward says late October 26th. Marlene says he won't. You know who I think is going to have the deciding factor in that? Is Jimmy Dollywall. Whatever Jimmy Dollywall decides, that's when it'll happen and not before. Okay? What do you think about that? I think Jimmy Dollywall's got control. As usual. You don't get much greasier than Jimmy. So, yeah, Phil, nobody trusts a Jimmy. No kidding. Nah, he changes his mind quite a bit, doesn't he? He says one thing and lies. He's going to get along real good with Carney. They're both liars, right? So, yeah. And those who don't know who Jimmy Dollywall is, that's Jagmeet Singh. So until Jagmeet Jimmy Dollywall says, you know, he's going to vote against or vote for a non-confidence, until then we're stuck with Carney and China and boots on the ground in Ukraine. Wow. Not good, eh? Do you know what is Singh up to these days? How does it fit in now? Well, you see, that's how it fits in. Globus Shoals Masters. Liquid gal, you'll see Carnage Carney push the Liberals to the middle, leaving NDP Jimmy stuck in the far left. Yeah, he's going to push them to the middle, but not really. It's all a charade because he lies, right? So he's going to make it look like they're going to the middle, but they're not. Just like that document he just signed, that's a lie. So we know he's a liar. What's a liar? Pretty much always a liar. And lie once and fool me, or you know, lie twice. Well, I'm trying to put that into perspective, but you know what I'm saying. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So shame on Carney. I don't think he fooled any of us once. The Liberals, people that are supporting him, they fooled them. They think he's going to be great. They think he's the second coming of politicians that, you know, he's over there just looking after us, going to do trade deals with Europe, and they don't know anything about him over there talking about putting boots on the ground in Ukraine. And a lot of them would say, no, that's a lie. He's not going to do that. We're not involved in Ukraine. Well, we send billions of dollars over there, and I guess we're out of money, so just send the troops instead. So, who does Carney think he is, Trump? He's kind of trying to play the part, isn't he? He's got weasel words, lies, deception, the smoke and mirrors that he's pulling off. Look, there's people that believe it. They believe him because they don't want to believe that a conservative government would change things. I think they would. I think Pierre is sincere about pipelines and getting the energy going. Remember, he was born out in Alberta, so he's got some Alberta blood in him. So, right? Bog Katie, lockdowns, EMA called, good chance. Conscription, I was looking up for that today, trying to see if I could find anything that he had mentioned about conscription. I thought I'd heard that rumored, but I can't find anything on it, but I would not put it past him. If we don't have the troops, you know, I guess, I don't know, I could see it happening. Emma, in other words, he has all the credentials for a liberal leader. You got it. Dino, cons have always been good for gas and oil. All the time through the Harper years, I was working in gas and oil. We couldn't get enough workers. Alberta was booming. The country was doing good, thanks to Alberta. But when Alberta's booming, it doesn't hurt them as much, these equalization payments. It's still a sore spot, and no wonder, but it's not as bad when the boom is going and everybody's working and the money's flowing. The people are coming in and out of the province, and there's money going to other provinces through the citizens coming back and spending money in their provinces and all that stuff. When they shut it down, everything stops. Liquid gal, Jimmy Dollywall, born in Canada, Ontario. He went to public school, didn't wear a turban until he ran as NDPer. Yep. He wanted votes from Sikhs, so he turbanized his head and plays a Sikh, and he hangs out with Khalistani terrorists. I just thought I'd throw that in at the bottom of your comment. So we got a Khalistani terrorist supporter. We got a lying fraud that's tied in with the Chinese Communist Party, labeled as Prime Minister of Canada now, unelected, unwanted. I would say it should be illegal, but, and people will say, well, yeah, but I mean, you know, you had Turner and Liberal, and there was another Conservative. I'm trying to think who that was. That was unelected. Yeah, but they were both politicians. They weren't this like this clown. And they really hadn't sold out to China. You know, the big difference. Emma not allowed in his own country of India. They don't want anything to do with him. They don't want anything to do with Trudeau either. Trudeau's not allowed there. Yeah. Phil, election office is open, signs stacked and ready right now. I heard that. Yeah. So, Emma Freeland has Alberta blood too. Yeah, she's got Nazi blood too, doesn't she? uh, Faye, I don't know what you're talking about there. Canadian National. Kash Patel said if he tries to enter the U.S., you'll have him arrested and deported to India. Good for him. Let's see, there's a D.C. judge now just ruled that, made a ruling that Trump can't deport Venezuelan gang members. Figure that one out. Criminal gang members, and the judge ruled that no, Trump can't deport them. How does a judge have ruling over the president? I don't understand that. I'm a little bit confused on U.S. politics at times, especially when you got Democrats in there slinging the dirt, just like the Liberals slinging the dirt here. Hey, Betty Power, I like Putin. He let all the Liberals go who wanted to leave Russia. He doesn't want them back in the country. He said they didn't want to be Russian anyway. Liberals are for WEF, not a country. Well, good for Vlad. Let's see. Who else? Dino. Lawrence, so sorry, no, I am actually Kathy, but we had another Kathy, and it got confusing. Is that the Kathy we're thinking of that we've been missing? Or a different Kathy? Not Kathy NB. Lynn. It's too late, already gone. Okay, I missed that part of it. If Trump can do whatever he needs to do, and sharp, that ruling will be overturned. I would think so. Emma, he's inviting cream of the crop to strengthen Russia. Yeah. It seems Russia and the U.S. are seeing eye to eye on a lot of stuff, which is good to see. And that really annoys the Europeans and people like Carney. Goes against their grain. Goes against, oh, Dino, not NB, okay. It goes against their warmongering, eh? Cal Delori, spill the beans, CCN. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Is this the end? What's coming? Oh. Well, like I say, they're over there trying to rattle the swords and beat on the war drums, right? And that's tomorrow is that meeting in Europe. Maybe you missed that when I was going over that earlier. Yeah, they want to put boots on the ground in Western Ukraine, and they're trying to organize it. And Carney's meeting with Harris Starmer in England, and and Macron in France, and those are the two that were initiating it. And now he's going to meet with European. He didn't say European Union, I don't think. He said I'm not sure how he said that. He said European leaders, or maybe just said he was going to Europe for a meeting. I'm not sure how he worded that. And those are the ones that are having the meeting tomorrow, trying to organize countries to supply troops to go into Ukraine. So, letting it get warm. You're supposed to drink it warm, but it's cold. Thanks for reminding me, okay? So, yeah. Lawrence, according to the Bible, Russia moves to the Middle East to shield the enemies of Israel, so this peace agreement could facilitate this. We send them money, sending money over to Syria to support the terrorist government that is massacring, torturing, and massacring Christians and the Alawites. I think that's a spin-off form of Islam that the hardliners don't like. So I seen one video of them. They're making them crawl on the ground, eh? And wow, Trudeau just sent them a bunch of money. I don't know how many millions it was. It's hard to keep track. And then they didn't send, I think he sent a bunch of money to Bangladesh for some stupid reason too. He had to get that money out of the coffers here, or borrow it, or whatever he had to do to try to put a little more debt on the country. You can't, have things looking good. You got to keep the people hungry, and, easier to control the people, but not quite so sure about that. I see over in Serbia, they got a huge uprising. It was hundreds of thousands of people rising up against the government. So they've had enough. There's a lot of the Western countries that have been abused that are finally rising up, and I think it could happen here. If he gets in elected and starts pulling stuff. I've seen Wilson. Don't remember his first name. He's a lawyer out in Alberta. He was talking to Ezra, and he said that if Carney gets elected as Prime Minister, Alberta will be leaving. And if Pierre gets elected as Prime Minister and he starts flip-flopping, Alberta will be leaving. So, we'll see. Cal Delore, Canadians needs to rise up against our government enough already. You know what's going to happen though? The first sign of dissent, Carney's bringing in the Emergency Measures Act. Right away. Because he's the one that told Trudeau to do it. So he'll have no problem bringing it in. Even though it was illegal when Trudeau did it, that's not going to stop Carney. Because once it's in, well then he'll deal with the repercussions afterwards. What happened to Trudeau? Nothing. Not a thing. And he's seen that. And every time Trudeau got in trouble and got caught, nothing happened. Didn't he pay a couple of little fines there for conflict of interest, $500 or $200 or something? I think we paid the fine for him. Marie, yeah, freezing bank accounts. So, oh yeah. When communism is voted in, it's pretty hard getting it out. And that's what we got right now. Thought we were living under rough situations before with Trudeau. Makes Trudeau look like a Boy Scout. So this guy here is just going to go in and just take complete control and loot and pillage. And any opposition, it's just going to be crack down hard on those peasants. Don't let them get a foot up on us. Just hit them hard. Don't forget, they got the big grab coming up here for over 5,000 different models here now coming up. Right? They just added another 179 to the list. Don't think Carney's going to be right on top of that, trying to get the door knocking going on, saying, hey, we'd kind of like to take a look and see what you got in here because we got orders to take it from you or take them from you. So, let's get the party started, yeah. Well, you know, when a country goes to war, there's the people really suffer. Not, I mean, the troops do, of course, but the people in the homeland do too, even without being attacked. Although we would be attacked, it could be Chinese drones, it could be Russian drones, right? Like who knows? But there's lots of people, lots of countries, or a couple of countries rather, that have got the equipment to do it. Nothing we can do about it. But during World War II, the homeland, Canada and US, the people really struggled. They were hit hard. They had, they were rationed. There was housing shortages. That was mainly in the cities, and they had to deal with that on daily life, right? Because there's nothing there. Everything goes to the war effort. I'm just looking here now. I see like the food shortages during World War II. What I'm trying to say here is that maybe you want to buy a few extra things if you can right now, because you think the prices are high. At least they're available. The Canadian families faced shortages of essential items like sugar, meat, butter, and gasoline, leading to rationing coupons to ensure fair distribution. So there was no hoarding, right? So items like rubber, gas, metal, and nylon, well, I would say more like plastic these days, were also difficult to obtain as they were needed for the war effort. The patriotic spirit of the Canadians, they were encouraged to use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And women contributed by donating old cookware and other household items to scrap metal drives. They didn't have the mining, so the miners were out fighting, so they had to get metal somewhere, so they took their old pots and pans and stuff and donated them so they could melt them down for the war effort. Their weekly rations of food, this is for 1 week, they got 1 1/3 ounces of tea, 5 1/3 ounces of coffee, 1/2 pound of sugar, and 1/2 pound of butter. Now, I'm sure there was other stuff available because you can't live on butter and sugar and coffee and tea. Those are examples. Everything was rationed. Gas was rationed. Rubber, you couldn't get tires. People were driving around on bald tires because they needed the rubber for the war effort. In larger cities, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, and Halifax, there were housing shortages and working class families had to double up in homes or live in garages, basements, or attics, and 3 kids to a bed was not uncommon. So, they were rough times. And I think now, people now, like back then, people were somewhat self-sufficient. Not now. People depend on that daily supply or whatever it's called for the food to come in. And they, a lot of them couldn't grow grass if they had to, because they wouldn't know what to do. They had he said they had new responsibilities. Adults started to disappear from children's lives soon after the war started. Older brothers, uncles, and fathers enlisted in the military and were posted across the country or sent overseas. they would be conscripted now, but the ones that needed the tampons from the men's washroom would stay here and look after the people, while the real men went over to Ukraine, is how that would work. You can't send rainbow warriors over to Ukraine because the Russians would hurt them, so they'll just stay here and, you know. They went from men in civilian dress to uniformed heroes and sometimes martyrs. Occasionally, the wounded returned limping, cradling an arm, or missing limbs. Well, we know what war is all about. Look at Afghanistan. Look at every war, the Korean War, and we even had volunteers for Vietnam. I worked with a guy that volunteered, did two tours in Vietnam with the U.S. And then he became a bouncer at a local bar, and when he got back, and he was killed. He was thrown through a plate glass window at the bar, and it sliced him up. It's too bad. Nice guy, native guy. While fathers and siblings were away on duty, children were expected to help around the house. New chores fell to children, everything from cooking to cleaning. Some mothers entered the paid workforce in white or blue-collar jobs, and older children had to look after the younger ones. Girls sometimes as young as 10 or 12 were soon employed in positions, general housework or to babysit. So war really hits the people at home too. Victory gardens were encouraged. Wherever there's a free patch of dirt, children planted seeds and tended to their vegetables. So, recycling. Yeah. Girl Guides and Boy Scouts continued their good work helping out those soldiers' families that required aid, and in the case of the girls, knitting socks and scarves for military members overseas. You know, kids wouldn't do that these days. Kids aren't like that. So, Plant Boy. Yeah. Anyways, like I say, if you can get a few things extra now, just keep a close eye on what's going on with Ukraine and Europe, Canada, England, France. The information is trickling out, but just remember there's a lot of information we're not getting, right? So keep your ear to the ground. Yeah, I just look at this site here. It's just horrible what they went through back then, and we have no idea. So I don't think anybody here was around back then. I wasn't born. But maybe it's our turn. Maybe Carney's going to get us involved, and we'll be dealing with it. So it doesn't hurt. We know power is going to go up. We know that the cost of living is going to go up with us until we get an election. And even after that, when the cost of living goes up, it's really hard to get it back down, right? Phil, do not ignore China. I know. Well, China's got a big foothold in here right now, Phil. You know that. They're already here. They were invited in. They bought places here, and I don't just mean like houses. They got those houses, but I mean like up in the oil sands. Who knows what industries they're backing here besides the fentanyl industry. Yeah. So we just don't know for sure, but that is very suspicious when Carney's going to Europe on the 17th of March tomorrow. And That's when that meeting is. And that's when he's meeting with UK and France. So, uh, you know what's up. Nick, I'm hoping to sell PM1 PMT, build me a house this year, right? Sharp, a lot of talk in your area about joining the US, I bet. Nick, Sarah, perhaps? I don't think so. Or just Sarah? No, I don't think so. Dino, Fred, how will Trump try to buy Canada? I don't think he will. Nick, precious metals, yeah. I don't think that's the plan. I don't know. It's hard to read Trump. It changes sometimes by the hour. So, you know, easy B, democracy is dead as Elvis. Yeah, it is here, that's for sure. Democracy sucks. We shouldn't be a republic anyways. Emma, what did I say about elections, if any, this year or next? I said it's up to Jimmy Dhaliwal, whatever he decides. If he goes along with Carney, like he has been, then we don't get an election until he decides. And which is not right now. We got Singh just putting us through hell. And there's no way he should have that power, but he sure loves it and he's using it. Patrick, in Nova Scotia, my last power bill was $450. One I just got was $900. Wow. I know. I think, yeah, Nova Scotia. I think you guys are getting hit a little harder there. Phil, if Trump says Canada is now 51st state, then it's done. Well, just think if Carney sent our troops over to Ukraine, boots on the ground. Well, I do have two flags. It all depends what uniform comes to my door. If it's Canadian military or Marines, I'll fly the flag. Canadian National, your dad joined the Canadian Army at the start of World War II. My dad joined, he lied about his age to get in at the end of World War II, but he ended up, the war ended, he was in Halifax, and he was there for the Halifax riots, and they put him in as a member, as military police. He didn't like that, helping round up the rioters. So he joined because, like, my uncle, one of my uncles was killed over in France, friendly fire, and that was his brother. And his other brother was a wireless operator on the Lancaster bombers flying over Germany. He did quite a few runs over there, I guess. Nick, wasn't expecting an early election. Balls back in Jagmeet's court. That's right. Liquid Gals, sad day on Wednesday, yeah. Hudson's Bay went into receivership, looking for millions. 355 years the Bay lasted. Sold to an American company in 2008. 9,000 people will be unemployed. That's the start. Yeah. Plant Boy, $888.58. Whoa. In fact, you don't pay the hydro thieves anymore. Cost me my home of 35 years, but not stressed out anymore. I just ordered in 2 more solar panels today. They're on sale. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 now. I agree, Phil. I'd rather be American than WEF dominated. We'd have the 2A and the 1A. Would be nice.
Uh, Phil, Canadian dollar, 69 cents. Woohoo, we're doing pretty good. It's going to be a lot lower, I think. Gold is going up big time. Silver's going up. So, I wish I had more gold and more silver, but it is what it is. They're saying, I would expect, right now, I can see 5,000 Canadian per ounce of gold. We're at 42 or 4,300 right now. I think it's 30, I don't know what it is in American dollars. Nick, you never thought of it like that with the 2A? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, liberals wouldn't like that. Carney'd be calling a second election and bailing out or resigning, getting out of here. So, what else we got? What's going on? Emma, I feel sorry for the younger people who have their heads on straight. Yeah, they'll never experience what I got to have. I know. We lived through the good old days. Some of them are tough, rough sledding, but we weren't controlled like we are now, and I don't think we were lied to as much. Sure, there's some deception, but nothing like this Liberal Party. Tino. Could imagine if Trump sent in military and took us over, our pathetic leaders would say, okay. Canadian Nationals say Bitcoin is just going to keep going up. It's down right now, though. It took a big dip, I believe. Nick, guys started buying PMs, gold, and silver in 2015 to save money with the increase in value. We're going to sell half and build me a house. Not sure how bushel I'll be next year. Yeah, I had to sell off my gold when I shattered my arm. I didn't have an income. I had to start over. Elaine Finn, there's a good Irish name. Our family, O'Connors, is another good one. Lived in New Ireland, New Brunswick, when they first came to Canada in 1847. Right on. Yeah, I got the O'Leary roots. Wef King Chucky's 3 recently gave symbolic ceremonial sword to his Canadian assistant rep in ceremony in England's reasserting his rule over us peasants. Pleased with Mark's Carney, no kidding. Betty Power, problem with becoming American is, yeah, I know, what happens when the Democrats get back into power, another Joe Biden, more woke ideology. I think we're doomed on both sides of the border. Depends. Did the Americans, I think a lot of them woke up, like the ones that weren't awake, I think that a lot of them woke up. That's why there was such a big landslide. And I'm telling you, when I look at these polls here in Canada, and I look at the comments online, they don't match. And I think the comments online are the real polls. My concern is electronic voting machines, the Dominion voting machines, and I bet you anything that's what it's going to be. And if you see those Dominion voting machines, Carney's going in. I hope that's not like that, but I'll tell you, that's what I think is going to happen. 79 terra firma. The Great Brown replacement continues. 41,500,000 newest Canadian population. Carney is in the Century Initiative. Probably some of you on here are familiar with the Century Initiative. That's to have the population to 100 million by
2,100. So we're looking at 1 million a year, I think it is. We got 40, yeah, roughly, give or take a little bit, eh? So he wants to double that up, right? Yeah. Emma, or maybe too big to rig, yeah. I don't know. But like I say, he's on Century Initiative, yeah. 100 million, is sharp, yeah. But I won't get any Liberal votes in Alberta. I'm very disappointed with this province. They seem to be flipping. We have an issue here. We have a divide between the English and French. It's still going on, and the French are notorious for voting Liberal. And there's enough English that go along with them. So they just vote the party lines. That's all it is. It don't matter. They could run a criminal or crook in there. And, oh, wait, they did, didn't they? 2 in a row, as a matter of fact. Kretschmer wasn't a whole lot better. So, yeah, you could, yeah, that seems to be what they put in now. They pretend to be very good until they get in there, and then you find out that they just robbed the bank. We're in big trouble. And it's to the point now, you got to watch everything every day, because the stuff they're trying to pull, and here we sit here and we watch it, and our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do. And even the opposition party, the Conservatives, nothing they can do. They're locked out of Parliament. This is ridiculous. So they're locked out of Parliament. People don't have a voice. He's going over there to see if he can get us involved in Western Ukraine. And yeah, China's knocking on our door. They just will not deal with the U.S. They just keep poking Trump. And they got enough idiots here that think, good, let's... If anybody else, I hear it again, I'm getting tired of hearing it. I wish somebody'd shoot that orange SOB. Come on now. You know? That's how liberals talk. Conservatives say, I wish we could lock those liberals up. We don't talk about assassinating people like liberals do. We talk about putting them in prison to do their time. So, yeah, I'm getting pretty tired of the delusional, and the delusion these people are living. And you can't fix stupid. That's the problem. Phil, TDS real, oh yeah, no kidding. In this country, I can't believe it. But, hey, the media promotes it. The liberals push it. You know? The media is the biggest curse right now. Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, Edward, yeah. The media is, they have no morals, no scruples. They're in there trying to help Carney the best they can. You're not going to see very much out of the media against him. They will do everything they can to put the Conservatives down. Faye, yeah, Trump is doing what he was voted in to do, yeah, with a huge majority. Lynn, did you see all the conservative extras getting swatted in the U.S.? Yes, I did see that, Lynn. I noticed that. Yeah. Look, those, oh yeah. The left they're evil. Their minds are warped. I mean, they don't lose. They're not good losers, that's for sure. And when they're in, they're horrible. We're so divided. Trudeau got us divided in a whole bunch of different camps, so he could promise everybody everything except the native-born Canadians, the ones he hated. And I don't mean Indigenous. I mean, you know who I mean, the Canadians born here over the last hundreds of years. He said he didn't like old stock Canadians. So, yeah. Betty, the Liberals think they're entitled to own Canada. Oh, yeah, they say, well, we're the natural governing party. Usually, I don't know what happened, how they won so many elections in the past. It bounced back and forth, but they have the most years in power, but they mess up badly every time. And people just don't learn. Canadians gonna feel the pain, that's for sure. You know that. Let's see. Yeah, a few more minutes, and then we're gonna bail out. Lawrence, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Is he yours? Make that decision now. Dino, we sit back and take their crap. Yeah. Too passive. Too passive. That's the problem. Although, there's generations coming up here now. I'm putting, I might be wrong, I'm putting faith in the younger folks. I think with social media, don't forget, what is it, Bill C-63 that's on the table? I don't think Carney's going to get that in just as quick as he can, and Jugmeat's going to go right along with him. Censorship bill. You're going to have a VPN to get any information at all. So, yeah, same way Biden wins him, Fred, yeah. Immigrants and migrants that vote for liberals. Yeah, I would agree with you. I would say the majority of them do, yeah. Because they know that's who got them in the door. And now look, Mark Miller, just before he bailed, he just made, what was it, 6,000 illegals legal? Just, oh, no, that's okay, you're illegal, now you're okay, now you're a citizen, here you go. Welcome to Canada. Marie, libs want to ban X. Yes, right? They don't want us getting information because their lies are being exposed. And remember Climate Barbie? If you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, that people will actually believe it. Yeah, well, that was a Nazi propaganda minister. That was his line. So, and they brought the Nazi, they found an actual SS Nazi officer alive and brought him into the House of Commons to be honored. And Freeland, with her Nazi roots, and holding the banner of the Azov battalion from Ukraine. Putin said he was going to, when he was going to he just said this. He said it earlier in the war, but he said, before he was going in, and now he said it again, he said he's going to denazify Ukraine before he leaves. So he wants that Azov battalion bad. He wants to get them. So, and that would be a good thing. And then Putin's on his way out, Zelensky's on his way out the door. He's crying the blues. But in that meeting that Trudeau was at, Zelensky was there. And Trudeau and Zelensky seem to have a thing going. I think they have a man crush on each other. Same with Macron. And now it's coming out there that Macron's wife is a man. I thought that a long time ago myself. So they're sick people, folks. They're sick people. And come on there, USAG, Pam Bondi. You got to get that list out. Everybody wants to see it. Even up here in Canada, we're itching to see who's on that list, on the Epstein list. We need it, because maybe Carney's on there. I think he might be. That would be sweet. So, okay, folks. Thanks for hanging in here. Talked about a few things, and appreciate it. And we'll do it again next week. Next week, St. Patty's week will be over, and St. George's comes up next month. That's the other side of my family, the Morgans. They hung Captain Morgan on me. Okay. Bye for now. God bless you all, and have as good a week as you can, put it that way, okay? And I'm telling you, we're not going to know. It's not over till it's over, right? Take care.